In the previous video, we were able to render the sphere in Babylon.js and also be able to use a free camera to push into the scene, move around, rotate the camera, and then added a Babylon observer to whenever the camera view matrix changed to console log the camera rotation so we can get at that data for the camera. And we set up the beginning of a way to communicate with another browser using Phoenix and Elixir user socket and channel, and some JavaScript to connect to a channel. So we've demonstrated that we can connect to the channel. So if I just refresh here, we should see something like join successfully. We have some, otherwise it would say an error. And we're just about to push some information using channel push, and then be able to receive that message using channel on. So let's do that. So on the JavaScript side, oh yeah, we didn't have a way to communicate between the scene and the broker, because the broker has this way of connecting to the channel, but it doesn't have the scene information. And the scene has the camera data, but it doesn't have a way to push things to a channel. So I said, why don't we make some kind of JavaScript side pubsub and give it to both of these functions. So we can use RXJS for that. So let me put that in the README for what we're trying to work on here. Use RXJS for pubsub. So what's nice about RxJS is it comes with, it's event driven. So it comes with a set of libraries to create different signals, and they're very handy for combining signals together and subscribing to the signals, filtering, mapping over them. So why don't we follow the getting started docs and add that. What's the installation? I guess it would just be npm install, right? So let's do that. So we'll go to our assets directory and we'll do npm install RxJS, I suppose. Okay, and now in our application, we're calling out to both of these functions, and we want to make some third thing. So I want to create a subject. So I want to import a subject from RxJS. So what is this? Is it internal? Okay, so what is a subject? A subject is I guess it's something that you can push a value in and get values out. So we can say a const, let's say bus for now, is a new subject. And it can have a type. So the type right now, we can say it's any type. This is right. A new subject. Okay, it's implicitly any, all right. And then we can just pass this in. So let's say that we can pass in the bus here and a bus here. Okay. And then in the make scene, let's modify this to take a bus, which is a type of subject. And here's where you need the type of any. And we'll do the same thing on the broker. Okay. And what this allows us to do is send messages. So on the scene side, here we're console logging out the camera rotation and position, but we can put that on the bus so we can emit something on this by putting next and then some value here. So it could be, for example, the position is camera position as an array, and the rotation can be camera absolute rotation as array, and that becomes a single message. So whenever we're moving the camera, we're going to push this data into a bus, and if nobody's listening on that bus, it doesn't go anywhere. But then in the broker side, we can now read that data. So over here, where we were going to push that into the channel, we can say, take that bus and then subscribe to the messages that are coming on this bus. And here's the message, and then we can do something with it. So again, we can console log it from here. Console log, the message is message. Console.log. And so if we go back and start our server again, when I move my mouse, we're getting messages coming through. And so here, broker has access to the messages that are put on a bus. So now we can do channel push, and we can decide what the event is. So we can say, this is all temporary, so we'll say person moved, and the message, which can be any kind of object, which it is. And if we do this, we should see something crash over here because it's unhandled in the space channel. In fact, we do here, right? So we're getting some red here because handle in is trying to process the message person moved, and we haven't implemented a handler for it. So if we come over here to the space channel side, incoming messages that come in on channel push have to have a matching pattern here in the handle inside. So this one was some boilerplate that they provided for us, so we can repurpose this one to say person moved, and this will be that payload that we defined here in the scene. It'll be pause rot as the two keys there. So this payload here, it'll be an Elixir term, so it's not quite a JSON object, but it'll be similar looking. It'll be pause rot. And this would allow us to send a reply, but in this case, we don't need to reply because we're pushing it up. So we're pushing it to other clients, so we don't need to reply here. No reply. No reply, and so we just return socket. But what we can do is we can broadcast. And broadcast, let me look up the API for broadcast. So Phoenix channel broadcast. Typically, you'll forward a message to all listeners with broadcast or push a message directly around with push. Okay, so it's just broadcast, like so. So what's the difference between broadcast and push? Okay, I guess it's more low level. It has a value or binary, and so this is a little bit higher level. So we'll use the broadcast. I think the bang will raise error. If it has something wrong, we don't need an error. So here's the socket, and the message will be, just to make it different, we'll say moved, and then the payload will just send the payload through. So this process will receive a message, and it's broadcasting it to anyone else who's also subscribed to the channel. And so now, back in JavaScript land, on the broker, we can add a listener. So now we can say on, sorry, not bus, this time it's channel, on, and then the message will be moved. We just crafted that. And then some callback. So we have some message data. So moved is the event, and message is the payload associated with it. So we can call this payload. And let's just console log that out. Receiving payload. So now we're pushing a message up as we move, but we're also receiving our own message back at us. So if we don't want to receive our own movements, we could do something like this, which is in the space channel, we can say broadcast from, and this will use the, let's see, broadcast from, which will send to everyone else except ourselves. So we won't see that message now. So if I refresh, as we move around, we don't receive that message. Instead, if there's another client connected, so we can use, let's just open up another tab here. And so if we jump into this space, when this side moves, you'll get messages on this side. And then when this side moves, you'll get messages on this side. So we're not sending messages ourselves, we're sending it across. So now we can see that the channel is working in terms of sending messages to other clients connected through the browser. And we did that using, with the help of RXJS and channel push and channel on. So in the next video, we'll add some authentication. Right now, we see that there's movement, but there's no ID, so I wouldn't be able to draw a unique something, a cube or something representing this other person, because this message just gives us the raw position rotation, and if you have multiple users connected, you wouldn't be able to distinguish them. So in the next video, we'll add some rudimentary user ID concept.